81% of people who start filling out a form never finish it. Not because they changed their mind, and not because they didn't want what you were offering, but because the form itself lost them. And if you're using a form right now to capture leads, onboard new clients, or collect any kind of information from your audience, you're losing half of the people who were already interested enough to start. In this video, I'm gonna show you exactly why that's happening, and I'm not just gonna give you tips like make your forms shorter. I'm gonna explain the actual psychology behind it. The science has been there since 1956 that most people building forms have never read. Then I'll show you what smart business are doing instead right now in 2026. And at the end, I'll show you the tool I use, and you can try it completely for free. Let me paint you a picture of what's actually happening when people enter your website right now. Someone finds you, maybe through an ad, maybe through Google, maybe a friend sent them your link. They land on your page and they like what they see, so they want to contact you. They press contact button, and what's the first thing it shows up? A form. Full name, email address, phone number, company, website, and somewhere along 5 to 10 fields, you lost them. They leave, and here's the scary part. 67% of the people who abandon your form are never gonna come back. Not later that day, not the next day, never. The average time a person spends on a form is around 1 minute 43 seconds. That goes by like that. You had 1 minute and 43 seconds to keep someone that was already interested, and that form killed that window. And you may be thinking like, okay, whatever, I'll just keep the form shorter, 3 instead of 10 fields, and yeah, that might help. But the real problem isn't the length, it's in the format itself. In 1956, a Harvard psychologist named George Miller published a paper called The Magical Number 7 Plus or Minus 2. It's one of the most cited papers in history of cognitive psychology. What he found out was simple. The human brain can only hold up to 7 pieces of information on working memory at a time. That's it, 7. The average web form asks for 11 fields. That's 11 pieces of information that your brain has to process, it has to analyze, then it has to decide what it wants to answer, and then you have to type it out and keep track of it, all at the same time. That's insane. That is not a preference. That is not that this generation has short attention spans. This is your brain hitting a biological wall that has been there since before any of us were born. This is not about laziness. It's neuroscience. And it keeps getting more interesting because research shows that filling out a form activates the same brain regions as taking a test. Think about it for a second. Someone lands on your website, one thing you're proud of, and the moment you put a form in front of them, their brain goes into exam mode. That little bit of stress, that slight sense of being evaluated. It's subtle, yes, but it's there. And it pushes people towards the exit. Okay, so what do I do now? An intake bot. And yeah, you heard me right. A conversational intake flow. It activates the part of your brain associated with having a helpful conversation with someone. It's the difference between being handed out a questionnaire versus being asked like, hey, what do you need help with? It's the same information being collected, but a completely different experience for the person on the other side. And that difference shows directly on your conversion rates. Chatbot leads convert at 3 times the rate of traditional form submissions. 3 times. It's the same traffic, it's the same audience, it's the same offer. That's crazy. And here's the thing that says everything. 92% of users who answer the first question in a conversational flow actually finish the whole thing. Compare that to the 31% of users in a traditional form. Again, that's crazy. A study across 400 companies found that switching to chatbots increased website conversion rates by anywhere between 10 to 100%, depending on the industry and the implementation. Now, I want to be upfront with you, because honestly, I think it's more useful than a pitch. If your form is 2 fields, name and email, just keep it. There's minimal friction there, and the simplicity is a nice feature. But if you're collecting detailed information for onboarding clients, qualifying leads, running intake for any kind of service, then the data is pretty clear on which format wins, and it's not even close. I just want you to think about this. People use candles for thousands of years, not because it was the best solution, but because it was the only thing available. Once light bulbs were invented, everyone made the switch, because it was obviously better. Forms have been the default for collecting information online since the early days of the internet. Not because they're the best way, but because there was the only way and nobody questioned it. That default is changing. And the businesses that figure out this early are going to have an immense advantage over the ones that are still waiting by the candle. Now let me show you what this actually looks like in action, because I think seeing it is more useful than me explaining it for another 3 minutes. This is Iosin. It's the tool I use, and what it does is replace your intake forms with an intake bot that has a real conversation with whoever lands on your page. Instead of landing on a page with 10 fields staring at them, the person who comes to your site gets this. One question at a time. Plain language. It adapts to what the person says, and it collects the exact same information your form would. Your name, email, company, use case, whatever you need. Just without the friction of seeing it all at once. The setup takes about 20 minutes. You define the question, the tone, what you want to collect at the end, and then ISN run it on its own 24 hours a day while you're working on other things. And this is the part that makes a real difference for B2B in particular, because when someone's already in a conversation, when they're already answered a question or two, they're far more likely to give you a real detailed answer, not the one-line response you get on a form. Actual context that make your sales conversion so much better. If you're losing leads right now, and based on the data, you almost certainly are, the fix isn't more traffic. It's less friction in how you collect them. You can try Iosin for free. Link is in the description. Set it up, replace one form, and see what happens to your numbers. You can thank me later. If this was useful, subscribe. I make videos like this consistently, and I don't waste your time. If you like Iosin, I'm gonna make a more in-depth video about it, so stay tuned. See you in the next one.